can road for. Well, lightly loaded run out if we're doing heavy duty. Okay, so it's basically that unit there without the load roller in it. So the third gen Balancer came out somewhere around 2008 to 2012 for cars. In 2012, we introduced the Smart Weight Touch, and then the Road Force Touch, and then the Road Force Elite. And then heavy duty equipment sort of got second place. So the heavy duty world stayed with this particular Balancer somewhere between 10 and 12 years. So there's going to be a lot of these. If you have heavy duty shops, there's either going to have this Balancer here, but it's in heavy duty configuration, so the tub's a little bigger. It has feet that stick out because it still has to pick up 500 pounds, but it has all the older technology in it because it just got stuck. It got sort of stuck in time. When we released the Road Force Elite about a year later after the Road Force Elite, we I don't want to use the word finally, but we finally got around to updating heavy duty. So in about 2022, we introduced the HDE, the Heavy Duty Elite. If you can fix a Road Force Elite, you can fix a Heavy Duty Elite because it's 99% the same. Friday we can go down there because they're doing classes right now, so we can't go down there. We're going to spend like a whole whopping 10 minutes on the thing. We're going to take the top of the weight tray off. We're going to look down inside of it and go, wow, it looks exactly the same. And then we're going to talk about the wheel lift, and someone's going to stand on it, and I'm going to lift them up and down. We're going to be like, wow, that really lifts up a lot. And then, we'll be like, there it is. So the other good news is the screens. We finally made the Road Force Elite screen and the Heavy Duty Elite screen look exactly the same. So all the buttons on the screens do the exact same job. Okay. The only difference is on this one here for Road Force, it goes from a car to an SUV to a pickup, and on the Heavy Duty Elite, it goes from a pickup to a bus to a truck. So the buttons are still there, but the images on the buttons are slightly different. That's the only difference. Your Road Force is still there. All the other stuff is still there. You got the load roller with the X. So we tried to really make it look similar. Okay, so if you have new HDEs, it's just like the RFs.
No button for ag tires? Not that I guess, what would you just use the big truck for ag stuff?
Unfortunately, I don't quite understand what you're asking.
No, you're talking about balancers.
Balancers.
Sorry,
that's fine.
I was thinking tire changer. Like
yeah. So, next week sometime while Miles has you, make him demonstrate the 645 for you. Okay, that's the big ag tire changer in the corner. Okay, I don't trust myself with it. I have seen people take a rim and the rim pops off of it, and the rim was literally horizontal. I was looking straight at it. Okay, so yeah, it was probably the same one. So Miles is really good at demonstrating the 645, so I let Miles demonstrate it. It's always good to know your limits. Because I wasn't the one that had the rim this way, but I don't want to be the one that has the rim. Anytime you have a rim this high in the air, you're probably not going the way you thought it was going to go. So I let Miles. Miles is very smooth with the 645. I'm sorry? 740s and 760s. Let's pretend I don't know what that is.
Neither I. The guys, like a lot of your HD shops have 760s and 740s.
Oh,
trying to get them
yeah, sensors. Those are truck sensors. We'll deal with that when we come back for a liner week. We'll go over heavy duty sensors because again, we're in sort of a weird time. That entire side of the building is like, we don't know, what are we talking, 740? I don't know that we don't make those anymore. Those don't exist, right? But 740s and 760s to us, we're gonna, they'll be around for the next 10 years, right? Because we're gonna still have parts for them, or hopefully we'll still have parts for them. We're gonna do our best. There's a ladies' bathroom somewhere that's just stocked full from floor to ceiling of 760 parts. Because we'll just pull them out of nowhere. It's like, I don't even know where we got the parts from. Anyway, so again, for you, The third generation balancer. Remember yesterday we had two different DAQ boards, and one was a -1 and one was a -1-2. Okay, the motherboard on that unit is called a rock hopper board. I don't know who nicknamed it that, but someone in engineering nicknamed the motherboard the rock hopper board. So it's called a rock hopper board. Even when you call up the lab, you say, hey, I got a rock hopper board, and they know exactly what you're talking about. There is a car version of the rock hopper board or main CPU board, and there's a truck version. The car version is a -1. The truck version is a -1-2. If you put a car motherboard in a truck unit, it won't work. The chips are different on the actual board. Okay. Um, the other thing with the -1-2s, I'm fairly certain if I find the part number for it and you put it into the parts lookup, it's probably going to say something like stock is very low, call before you, or if you go into Express and you put that part number in, it'll say something like stock is very low, call before you order it. Or if you go into parts pricing, it'll probably have reference a bulletin number where we probably have like less than 100 of those boards. So that price went from $600 to like stupid because we're trying to nudge people like, hey, you really don't want to fix this. You want to go to the new one. Right. Yeah.
He said they're so stubborn that when they call you, they expect you to be like 5 steps down the street.
Yeah. Most of my customers are that way. So again, truck technology was, it's you're either going to have really old stuff or brand new stuff. There is nothing in between truck technology. And because most truck places will keep the stuff like 5 years after they should have traded it in and bought something new. They hold on to stuff forever. They hold on to stuff. Even though they're charging, most places charge like $199 for a single axle or $299 for a 3-axle alignment. I had some guys way out in Tallapoosa, exit 5. When I went out to Tallapoosa, my cell phone switched to Alabama towers, so I was actually on Central Time, even though it's still in the Eastern Time Zone. It was really close. They had two guys. They could take 760 sensors and they could do a 3-axle truck alignment in 15 minutes. Right, and they were just killing $299 all day long. Those guys were flying. Those guys were good. Then he had a heart attack. Then he came back to work anyway. Good times. All right. As far as Road Force Elites go, I finally I have one that I can put up here. I'm going to go into service mode. So I'm just going to hit Tools, Advanced, enter service mode. For Neil, I'm going to type in HECOSVC. Now I'm in service mode. Back to Tools, to Advanced, Diagnostics. And I want spindle encoder. So if you noticed, I had to hit more. I went to spindle encoder. Okay. If you notice on spindle encoder, there are 3 flat lines. So what you have to do is you actually have to turn the spindle while you're hitting the button that says record or take readings, because it's not always live. Okay, so I'm gonna put this wing nut on here so I can get a better consistency. So we keep talking about wheel encoders and we keep talking about spindles and we keep talking about channels. Like even on the Revolution, it has a wheel encoder and channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to turn this real slow. Okay. I'm going to hit take readings. I might be going too fast still, but we'll see what we get. Yep, still went too fast. So I got to slow down. So we're going to go even slower. All right. Pin right, pin right, pin right, pin right, pin left. All right. The reason I try to go really slow is I keep talking about everything is 180 degrees out of phase. If you spin it up too fast, you can't see the phases. So what I want you guys, that's not 180 degrees out of phase. Well, that stinks. This line here is supposed to be here. This line here is actually here. That's okay. This line here is supposed to be over here, which tells me, but it passed calibration. Interesting. Interesting. They're not supposed to overlap. Like, I don't like that. I don't like that. Because they're both coming down at the same time. I don't like that at all. Interesting. But yet it passes. So the other thing that we're going to look for, we're going to look at the top. So I'm going to pan to the right, but I didn't spin it fast enough. So I didn't actually get a home pulse because I didn't spin it fast enough. So we're going to take some more readings, and I'm going to try to get a home pulse. So let's spin it a little faster. Let's take some readings. Yeah. So you can't see anything when they all jumble up like that. All right, so there's my home pulse. I've got 1, 2 home pulses because I was spinning it faster. Okay. So if someone wanted to count, I suppose they could count. But between this home pulse and that other home pulse, you'd have to count 512 of those, right? So I'm not counting 512 of those. I'm just going to take it for its word that there's 512 of those. Because you can see counts right here, 119 counts. Channel A, channel B, channel A, channel B, and then I get 1 home pulse, okay? So that's just what a spindle encoder is looking like digitally, right? Because you can see the light. If it goes slow enough, you can see the lights blink. But now that we've old balancers like the 9702, 9712, the encoder was external, so you could watch the lights blink. Now we fortunately stuffed the encoder in between 2 pieces of steel. Makes it real easy to see the lights blink. So the only way you can figure out what's going on is if you go into that spindle encoder test, and then again, you just have to try to spin it. I'm not exactly happy that they're overlapping. They shouldn't be overlapping. All right, what else can we show you guys? We're going to get out of here. We're going to end this test. I need a tire for Smart Scan. We'll do that in a minute. Loaded run-out air components. All right, so we're in, if I end this test, I'm going to go to Tools, Advanced, Diagnostics, Loaded run-out air components. This screen here is the only screen that I know of that you can read your tire pressure transducer, the one that goes bad all the time. All right, so this is the only screen that I know of that, because right now it should be on 0 psi, right? It's not hooked up to a tire. It should be ambient air pressure, right? So it's on 0. You get like plus or minus 5 per psi that when you calibrate the unit, you can overcome. It's almost like bore sight, and then you get compensated. You can compensate for plus or minus 5 psi. Once you get outside that 5 psi, it's just going to fail calibration. The other thing that can happen is in between calibrations, if this thing starts reading 5 psi, 6 psi, 7 psi, you're going to run into an error message, and the error message is going to say that the airbag is taking excessive time to reach minimum pressure because the regulator. The regulator is if you noticed on the regulator that we took off, you couldn't change the top, right? They glued it into place, right? They glued it into place because they want a set pressure. So the thing is that regulator set at 90 psi. So the other problem is we need to get 90 psi into the airbag. If you have that thing sitting on negative 5 psi, it's only going to get up to 85. It's expecting to see 90. So what's happening is it's putting more and more pressure onto the tire because it's trying to get to 90 and it can't never. It's almost like the Revolution where it can't get there because it started too negative, so it can't get to 90. And then even though that tire is literally crushing the sidewall of the tire, the load roller is crushing the sidewall of the tire, it's going to give you an error message that it couldn't reach minimum pressure. Okay. When you get a minimum pressure error, this is the only screen I know you can come to, and you just look to see what it's reading. Okay. If it's reading anything other than 0, you might as well just replace it. Okay. The other thing you can do since we're on this screen, if you lower the hood, you can actually check the valves. We were talking about the air valves in the left front of this balancer. If I lower this down, if I hit the fill tire exhaust bag, it should come out of here. All right. Okay. And then if I hit fill, now, if you hit fill bag and you don't have a tire on the spindle, you have to be careful because you can overextend the airbag and you can rip the airbag. So when you hit fill bag, the load roller is going to try to come out real fast. So you have to be quick on the button to hit read bag. So we're going to hit fill bag. Okay. Now, if you notice when I hit read bag, the load roller didn't come away. But if you notice, it says that I got like 16.7 psi. And now I have a loaded roller. I have a loaded diameter, right? So if you wanted to try to check that, you could check that. The only thing with loaded runout components, you're checking to make sure that your valves are actually working. Okay. I'm sorry?
It's slowly going back in.
Yeah, it's slowly losing some air, and it's slowly going down. There is the one valve that always seems to go bad is your five-way valve. Your five-way valve is what tells the air to either fill up your airbag or come out of the inflation hose. And sometimes, rather than the load roller coming down and hitting the tire, whoever's standing there is going to get a blast of air right up their nose, and it's going to take the front of their hair and move it out. Obviously, the valve is stuck, right? Because it can't shuffle the other way. It's stuck in inflation mode. You guys are going to be replacing a fair amount of valves, only because the needle in the seat and the pintles and all that. Since we're an engineering company, we make everything with a really, really small tolerance. Once you get water in there, everything is made out of aluminum, so aluminum pits when you get water on it. When the water corrodes the aluminum, it pits, and then the valve will shove one way, the corrosion will hold it, and then it can't shuffle back the other way. The other good thing that you can do, you can take off the wheel weight tray, and you can watch to see if the red lights are lighting up on the red LEDs are actually lighting up on the actual valves. Let's just say you have a valve that's stuck in the middle that won't move in either direction. At least you can see the red light up that tells you that you're getting proper voltage to the valve. And at that point, you're just going to go to your truck, pull out the new valve, and replace it, because it's just stuck. All right. But this is a great screen to do that on because you don't have to try to do this while you have a rotating tire at 300 RPM where the thing's trying to bring the load roller in. It's a much safer environment, and we don't have to watch Jesse take a free ride, just spinning around. You've been pretty good lately, honestly. It's all week you've been good this week. I know, right? Mm-hmm. So it's been quiet. Never say it's been quiet. Never say it's been quiet. All right, if I hit read tire exhaust bag, it basically sends everything back to home, and then nothing's. You also have to have the hood down. For some reason, for safety reasons, because that load roller is coming out, we don't want anyone to get crushed between the load roller and the spindle. So we always make you have the hood down for safety. Otherwise, none of these tests will happen. Okay. Smart scan. I need a tire for smart scan. I'll put a tire on in a second. If I go to more, force sensors, ecal spindle, encoder, lateral force sensor. We already did lateral force sensor. Look at that. There's even more on this one. Holy moly. HunterNet. Oh, for those of you who actually hooked this up to a network, there's your HunterNet network diagnostics. That's how you test the wireless network and make sure that you're actually reporting the HunterNet. But you had to hit more 3 times just to get to it. Okay.
Jim, can you log into that remotely and look at it before you get to the site?
The only thing you do if you log in remotely is you'll see that it's not reported. So, executive VPs and higher want you guys to go visit your customers. So there's a lot of things that we don't engineer to make it easier on you so that you can't sit there in your mom's basement in your underwear with Cheeto dust on your fingers. We want you to not like the IT Nazis, right? We don't want to turn you into an IT Nazi. So we the on the extreme top end of the the ownership and how they the directive of the company. There's the old saying belly to belly, all right? Because when you're standing next to somebody, you're belly to belly. So we like a lot of belly to belly encounters, which is why you still have to put a key in to update specs, right? Tesla updates their cars over the air, right? And you park it at home, and then the next morning you go out and it's got a new FSD, 14.1 or 13.1. We probably could do spec updates automatically, but then you guys, I'm sure you've heard there's like a consensus. You guys are the face and the backbone of the company, so we want you guys out there because our products are a lot more expensive, but you guys are the reason that we're allowed to make our products a lot more expensive because some of you guys had other equipment. You had to wait 3 days or a week to get the guy to come in to fix it. He was coming in from a different state. You had to wait for him to like drive around. Where you guys are, maybe a day or two out at max. Okay, so because of that, we want you guys to visit your customers. So who likes, who likes when they call up, they get the bot, right? You're trying to call Xfinity and all you get is the helping line. It's some computer that sounds like a person. At least the computer speaks better English than most people on the helpline, right? Most people on the helpline who speak English do not speak my English. It's like broken hillbillies, but would be better. But
I tried that for like 6 months of all the dealerships. It was called Brook AI.
mm,
And all the people, like the old people, because it records.
oh yeah, you hate it. Yeah. So the older I get, day by day, the more I turn into my dad. I mentally hear myself wanting to say, "I need you to speak English, right? Why don't you speak English?" So I'm turning into my dad more rapidly than I really care to turn into my dad. But anyone ever see the movie Secondhand Lions? Yeah. All right, I understand those two old guys on the front porch better every day I live. I understand those two guys on the front porch. Man, I understand those guys. All right. Ecal, if you click on ecal, you can either do an ecal now or you can do ecal history. So let's just, for grins and giggles, we're going to do an ecal now. Okay, so if you notice your gains is 0.997 on the left and 0.999 on the right, we're going to do an ecal and we're going to see if the gains change a little bit. So see, it says left gains calculated now. Now it's going to do the right one. So it does both of them. For those of you who have some type of touchscreen balancer in your salesman's demo truck, because the salesman's demo truck has a compressor or a generator running, usually right underneath the floor, it will never pass an ecal because the floor is vibrating too much. So while your salesperson, business consultant, I can't call them salespeople, while your business consultant has it in their truck, you have to turn ecal off or you will never get it to calibrate. It'll calibrate, but it'll never ecal and it'll always fail. And then you'll have the bits that are zeros instead of ones. Once he sells that unit, I haven't actually said this yet. Salespeople can only keep equipment on their truck for 3 years. After 3 years, we bill them for the equipment. So your salesperson has an insistency that because we don't want them to have 5-year-old equipment on the demo truck, right? We want them to have newer equipment on the demo truck. So most salespeople right around month 18 start to get real antsy because they have to find somebody to buy this 18-month-old Balancer tire changer, Ultimate ADAS, brake leather, whatever they have. So when they sell it, please turn it back on, okay? None of you guys have legacy people, which is good. Some of the older guys like me that you're going to encounter in the field will tell you to turn it off because it doesn't work. I don't want to say we're very superstitious, but we remember when stuff first comes out, and nothing ever works when it first comes out. And then they turned it off and it fixed it. So that's the fix. You just turn it off forever. It works now, so you can leave it on. Okay? So now we're going to go into eCal history. You have a daily, obviously you have a daily, so daily 50, 100 or max. I would be very careful in rendering max history because if you have 9,687 events, it has to plot 9,687 plots. So it's running Linux. It's got like 1 gig of RAM. It's gonna take a minute. So usually your last 100 cows is usually good enough to see whatever you want to see. Okay, so here we go. This is actually great. Okay. So again, what I want is I want 2 lazy rivers. If the lazy rivers go up, they go up. If they go down, they go down. So, you know, I got a little bit of a divergence there, but they're mostly moving. They both went up here. This is bad, right? And then if you notice, they're together, they're together, they're together, they're together, they're together, they're together. So something happened right here. I'm going to say either a new force transducer was introduced or a new DAQ board was introduced because something really bad happened. Although I will say this, once the temperature dropped down too at the same time. But if the temperature dropped, then both of my force transducers should have dropped. But that's a fairly big divergence. I'm going to say somebody fried the motherboard and we had to put a new motherboard in. Okay. Just for you guys, I'll do a max history just to see what it looks like. But that's a nice one except for that. The other thing you guys need to do, which most people don't realize they need to do when you go back to the last page, if you repair something, if you replace something, if you put in a new DAQ board or a new force transducer, hit clear data because you won't know where on the timeline you did your repair. Right? So you may look at the timeline too far back and then you might be repairing something from the last time you repaired it. So if you're going to put something new in, new software, anything, hit clear data, right? And that way you'll start fresh. That way you know that data began after you fixed it the last time. But a lot of people never hit clear data. I don't know why. They just don't. So let's see how many. That's not too bad. 1,209. See, the problem with 1,296 gains, it's all so small you can't actually see what's going on with it anyway. Right? So this is that big drop that we had during the last 100. This one here, somebody did something really stupid, right? And it's actually hard to read because it's just up and down, up and down, up and down, and up and down. So that's why I like to do 100. 100. I can't do anything with it. I can't change nothing.
What was that big spike up?
That's probably where we replaced another DAQ board. Dave's class was wonderful about breaking stuff. I hated when Dave taught class because every time he taught class, nothing worked when he got done. I ordered so many parts. I love Dave. For some reason, his students would just do silly stuff. His students did a lot of silly stuff. So again, this one only has 1,296 on it since the last time it was reset. If I do it daily, what happens if I do it daily? I'm sorry? I don't know. I've never wanted to hit it because I lose all my data. It should clear everything. Like it should clear. It's like clearing your browser history, right? Yeah. Although everything to the left.
It says last 2 days on the top,
Mhm.
so that's where we were plugging everything back into.
Yeah. Or because did you take one of your force transducers out? Right. So when you tightened your force transducers up, you tightened it a little different than the people who had it before you, right? So it dropped down a little bit, right? So
It doesn't decal every day.
it does an ecal every 15 minutes of inactivity.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so as long as you don't touch the balancer for 15 minutes, it'll do an ecal. That's another thing you guys can do. Um, there is a setup question, and there's a setup question that asks how often do you want it to ecal. You can tell it to do it every 15 minutes, 30, an hour. It's almost like screensaver on Windows. You want to do it once an hour, once every 2 hours. You want to do it once a day, or you want to do it never. So you can actually set that ecal to a different parameter if you like. Okay. This right here, the button here, this is silver. Some of you guys saw this blink blue. That doesn't mean orcs are present. That means it's actually doing an ecal. Okay. If it is doing an ecal, you don't necessarily have to wait for it to get done. If you bump the spindle or you put a wheel on and it's in the middle of an ecal, we do the same thing we always do, and we just revert back to the last ecal because we don't want the customer to wait, right? Everyone's in a hurry. There's ice cream in the trunk. There's 2 screaming kids in the waiting room, and you want to get that person out of there. So you don't have to wait for ecal to get done. Again, after you get done with those 2 or 4 tires, if it sits for another 15 minutes, it will just attempt to do another ecal whenever it's idle. Okay. So if I,
You just recommend leaving all the factory settings then?
yeah, the factory setting comes every 15 minutes. One of the other reasons I like 15 minutes is you get more points on your graph, right? If you tell it to do it once a day, we'd have had 2 points on that graph. If I did the ecal daily graph, it would have had 2 points, right? And
I
that's
was curious if you thought half hour would be better, so it's a little more predominant where your points are instead of close together.
yeah. I just leave it. I leave it, and I don't have too much trouble with it. What else? Oh, I got to put a wheel on, so let me put this wheel on real quick. Then I can show you a smart scan. Oh, before I do that, let me take this off. Hey, guess what doesn't work? So if I go to Tools, and I go to Advanced, and I go to Diagnostics, and I go to, where's Switches? Switches. Oh, it works. Oh, it does work. All right. So then why doesn't that work? Okay. It works, right? Because yeah, and it worked yesterday. So I double checked to make sure that it was electrically working because you heard the beeps. Okay. I'm gonna tell you there. You want to know what's wrong with the balancer? I don't know. It's a software thing. If I rebooted it, it'll work again. Right.
You rebooted it.
I did. Right. And this time when I rebooted it, it lost the function. Right. Software anomaly. Nah, because they were using it yesterday.
I was getting real sloppy with it.
No, it's a joke. I was meaning
Oh, yeah.
word problem, program problem.
It could be a DAQ board, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Let me take this off then. It's a surface mounted component problem. There's nothing actually wrong with the actual DAQ board. If you ask any engineer, it's never their problem. Right? It's always an application error. If I go back to Advanced, if I go to Diagnostics and I go to Motor Drive, okay, I'm going to have to lower the hood. Do I have to lower the hood? I have to lower the hood. There is a speed test and there is a torque test. The speed test is if you want to see if you can make it turn a specific speed, okay? The torque test is what you want to do to see what the maximum speed the balancer can produce. So if you got something where it says excessive time to reach minimum speed, you'll do a torque test and you'll see if it can actually hit 300 RPM. So we're going to do a torque test, okay? If you notice, we had to put a message up there that says the motor will not spin at 50% duty cycle. All right, I said the word duty. There you go, and you got it recorded. All right, so I had to do something to keep us smiling, otherwise it's boring. 50% duty cycle means I have two opposing voltages that are the same, right? It's going this way. So the motor is actually just being held in place by electricity at this point. So that's why you either want to do 30% or 70%. Okay. So I'm going to move this down to 30%. 30%. Let me start. Okay. So we're doing pretty good. We got 379 RPM in one direction, whichever direction that is. Okay. If I stop it and I go up to 70, I get, now this is in the other direction, right? So it's either clockwise or counterclockwise. But if you noticed, I can hit about 386 RPM, which is great. Okay. If the chance where, I don't know, you're in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, and the gerbils that are running to keep the power grid running, they're failing, and it won't make 300 RPM, you come over to the torque test and you figure out what the maximum RPM is. So let's just say the maximum RPM on this particular balancer was 290. Just couldn't get enough oomph to get up the hill to make it to 300. So if it makes 290 RPM, you want a 15 RPM buffer. You want a 15 RPM buffer. So 290 minus 15 is 275. Okay. So we make this real easy, and it's really intuitive on how to change the RPM of the balancer. So you're going to get out of here. You're going to go down to force sensors because that makes sense. And then you have to be in service mode, and right there in the lower right hand corner of force sensors is where you can actually change the, yeah, I know, right? It's so easy to get to. I mean, why didn't you know that, right? It's like, all right. So again, trying to get 275 even is probably going to be impossible. You have such a lovely voice, but it's very quiet, and I'm very far away.
Are these procedures available on literature as well?
Yeah, it's in the service manual. So that we call it service instructions. We don't call it service manual. We call it service instructions. That's okay. He's recording all of it. So if you give him $5, he'll give you the recording. So. Or is it $5 a day? I'm not sure what the going rate is these days, right? So it is expensive. Again, you know, the nuclear power plant that Homer Simpson's working at isn't making as many, you know, 1.21 gigawatts that it should. So you actually have to turn it down, right? That way, you know what the new max RPM is. Okay. So guess what? If I exit right now, is it going to stay at 273 or is it going to revert back to 300? It's going to revert back to 300 because I didn't save it, right? So just for Colin, I have to hit more because they wouldn't put save on the first page. You have to know to hit more, and then you have to hit store setup on the second page about halfway down. Okay. Now, again, totally intuitive, right? Because it doesn't actually say to save it, right? I mean, how would you not know this, right? All right. I'm not going to hit store setup because I don't want to. Okay. What do you think you have to do after you hit store setup?
Do you have to run it at that?
You have to redo a 3-spin. Why do you have to redo a 3-spin? Actually, I turned it down. So, what is it, centripetal or centrifugal? I always get the two confused. So, the weight is spinning at a slower speed. So the weight, because you know the weight's always trying to fly off in a straight line, but we make it spin in a circle. So, centripetal, we'll go with that. I know, right? I always get these things. It doesn't weigh as much, right? It weighs 4.32 ounces when it's spinning at 300 RPM. If I'm spinning it at 275 RPM, it's turning slightly slower, so it weighs slightly less. Slightly less. Man, I'm having a great time. It weighs slightly less, so you have to recalculate, because not only will your weight weigh slightly less, your 1 ounce weight will also weigh less because your 1 ounce weight's not also spinning at 300 RPM. your 1 ounce weight's only spinning at 275. So everything weighs. It's like going to the moon. You're going to weigh less. Right? Jump higher, weigh less. I'd look good on the moon. I'm just kidding. I don't want to go to the moon. No, I get shorter. Your bones collapse. Your bones degrade in space. Yeah, because they're soft. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. I get it. And then I could eat cheese, right? If I dug deep enough, I could find a hollow spot where the cheese is in the moon. Right? You get cheese. Either that, or I'm going to find out what's on the dark side of it, and then it's bad news. Right? Aliens. The alien space station that's on the far side. You shouldn't say dark side because there is no actual dark side. It's the far side at the alien space station. So you have to hit store setup, and then it's going to tell you after you hit store setup that you must complete a 3-spin calibration. It will tell you. No, it will tell you. I'm just too lazy to do the 3-spin calibration, so I never hit store setup. Okay. Tell you what. Let me put a tire on here real quick. Okay. Doobie doobie doo. Doobie doobie doobie. This interlude brought to you by Rusty's. You too. Yeah, Cars 4. Yeah. Did anyone notice the green tape on the air hose? Did you ever wonder why there's green tape on the air hose? Yes, because the air hose is an older air hose and I have a newer saddle and the angles don't meet. So I have to put green tape on the air hose to make the switch engage. So, innovative. Tools, advanced, diagnostics. Where was I going? Oh, load force sensors. So here's my left force sensor. Right, and then if I go to the right force sensor, so if you notice it says, what, 90,000? Then if I show my right force sensor, if you notice it's still 90,000, but my oscillations are twice as high. Right. It's not the size of the force sensor. It's high. Never mind. So because my right force sensor is about 18 inches closer to the spindle, my right force sensor picks up the harmonics a little bit higher. Right? That's why if you try to just swap the plugs, it knows it's not right because my left force sensor shouldn't be twice as high as my right one. So again, sometimes we make stuff too smart for our own good because you can't just swap stuff and test it. So yeah, so there's that. So I can get in.
Do you know what I'm talking about? The force sensor is that looking device that sits.
No, that's the load cell for lateral force. This is the force sensors of these guys. These guys here. This is a force. Instead of saying force transducer, I guess because the word transducer was too hard to put on the screen, we'll call it a force sensor.
A wobble sensor.
Oh yes. So if I go to Smart Scan, I can do some all of this stuff is pretty crazy stuff. But if I show images, right? So this is what the camera is actually seeing on the rim. So as I move the rim, this is what the camera sees. Okay. Oh, I know, right? I know, right? So let me go back over to here. Let me get something better. So the dot, see that brighter dot? That bright dot is halfway through the laser array. And if you go over to the tire, what'll happen is, I don't know if you guys, I don't know, we haven't been trudging through Power Bay too much, but you know when someone steps on the quick tread edge and it blinds somebody, if you look on the wall, you'll notice that everything is like really, really, really close together, and then this one's like sort of far apart, and then there's that one dot. And then after the dot, the pattern inverts, and then it's spaced out, and then they're really close together. And that lets us know where we are on our laser array. So that means this is the middle of what we can see. Okay. We can see a live view. So let's see a live view. Where's live view at? Show live camera feed. If you show a live camera feed without a tire on here, it'll get you a gray screen of death in about 3 seconds. You gotta be really careful. All right. So if you notice, this is what the barrel of my rim looks like. Now, if I try to put a wheel weight, let me see if I can try to put a wheel weight there. So if you notice in the middle right there, right in the very middle of it, there's a new mountain, and then that mountain just went away, and now it's a plateau. That's the actual wheel weight that I threw on there. Okay. If I put my hand in there. So this is what this, so the inner camera is actually, so this is what we're doing. We're actually plotting or data plotting. We're actually plotting the whole entire barrel of the rim, right? So then this is the spokes over here. Okay. So
How many points of contact does it?
28. Oh, that point of weight, that's indefinite. You can move it wherever you want to. It takes that many measurements. So if I get out of here, and I get out of here, and I get out of here, why didn't it tell me how much weight I needed? What happened to my weight? I lost my weight. I need some weight. All right, so good thing is, hey, my auto hood doesn't auto. Interesting. So I need a ½ ounce. If you notice, if you notice my two cameras figured out that I could do a clip because it's a steel wheel, and it figured out that there's a little lip, so I could do a clip. Okay. What happens for those of you guys who have been in tire shops all your lives, what happens when you go from a clip to a clip stick? You have to redo it because it doesn't know where you're putting the weight. So when you have weights versus the middle of the tire, that is called weight plane separation, right? It knows where my weight plane separation is right now because you took the two arms and you went like this and you hit the button and you told it was here. When you want to go, instead of going from here, but you want to go from here and then you turn it upside down and go inside, it doesn't know that measurement. So you have to redo the measurement and then it'll give you the new number. Or if you wanted to do a tape, it still doesn't know anything about it. Now watch what happens here. Because I data plotted the whole inside of the rim, I can go to a clip tape. I can go to a tape, right? And it knows exactly what to do. Now it says, if you notice when I go back to clip obviously has it on the outside of on the inside of the rim, right? Because that's where the clip goes, right? And if you notice, it's green, and you have the red laser dot. When I go back to tape, however, it says that a single plane is found. But if you notice where the single plane is, it's almost in the middle of the wheel, right? So that means it's actually better in the middle of the wheel. But since I told it I wanted to do a clip, it was forced to put it on the outside. But it did the math calculations, and it didn't change. So let's just see what happens to my if you notice my two thresholds, lower right-hand corner, if I go back to here, what happens? All right, did anything change or no? Okay, so because this tire is a small enough tire, that ½ ounce isn't giving me a couple. Right, sometimes the tire on the right will give me a couple imbalance because I have the weight on the wrong spot. All right, so if I want to toggle, I can either toggle to like a regular tape, right? Or I can do a single solution tape. Now, Let's see how I can do this. Where is my okay. All right, so here you go. Okay. If you notice the second one down, it has all of my measurements where I put stuff. So I'm going to hit the second button down. Okay. If you wanted to get really super anal, that's telling you exactly where to put the weight. 217 millimeters from the face of the balancer, 217 millimeters out. That's where you're going to put the weight. All right. Now, upper right hand corner, it says enable dragging. So that means I can actually take the weight and I can actually move the weight. So it's telling you where the weight was originally in the middle. And then it tells you if I move the weight to the left, if you notice it says prediction, right? So then I can take this guy and I can drag this guy back over to here. There should be, this one doesn't have extended dragging. Sometimes you can get into extended drag. Oh, there it is. So that means I can go all the way out to here if I want. All right. Or I can go all the way over to here if I want. But if you notice the prediction never really changes, right? No matter where I put that weight, if you notice my static and my couple doesn't actually change because it's only a half ounce. But, you know, if for some reason the customer didn't want it there, I don't know why the customer wouldn't want it there, but you can actually tell it where to go. Right? Yeah, calipers. Okay. So I'm going to disable. It is, isn't it? Because that's what it showed on the live feed. Right? I know. That's pretty crazy for a balancer. That's some pretty crazy stuff, right? That we actually do that. I know, right? All right, so I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go back into Tools, Advanced, Diagnostics, Smart Scan, Show Rim Dots. All right. So because again, the balancer can't use the cameras like we use eyes. So this is what the balancer actually sees as the tire and the wheel. Okay. So the purple is actually the rubber tire. The blue is the trough. This is a clip-on weight that I can put a clip-on weight here. This is the tire. This is the tire. And this is the clip-on weight on the outside of the rim. And then this is the little bit of the bead seat where the outer rim actually goes in on the tire. But this is how the balancer actually sees that tire and wheel assembly or tire and rim assembly. Doesn't actually see it as a picture. It is a matrix. Right.
That's the beat. What happens when you change the dot size?
I can do that.
What does that do?
Just makes everything bigger. So let me see if I can make the comparison. Can I recenter? See, if I make the dot size, it just makes everything right.
There's already a weight on the back of it? Or you already have it?
No, I don't have any weight on it.
You said the X's is where it.
That's where it can put the weight. Yes, it has determined.
You can make a weight on, right?
Yeah. So evidently that's run out. The two. If I do run out outer and run out inner, that's where my run out is. I can take that on and off. All right. So let me enable view manipulation. Yeah. Come on, move, cancel. Let me get out of here. Let me go back in. Show rim dots. Okay. So if I can take stuff out, right? I can. Oops. I don't want to print. If I take that, I can take the blue out, right? I can do the profile. I can do the tire outer, flange. Oops, individuals. If I go to averages, it changes a little. It changes a little, just a little, not a lot. So anyway, this is just something. If you know you got that one guy who wants to see all the card tricks and all that, you can just show him all this stuff. No one, I've never heard of anyone in the lab or anything ask for these. This is just showing you guys how how the sausage is made. Right now. It is start of the drawing of the Kool-Aid Man. What else do we have? Loaded runout component, ecal sensors, switches, spindle encoder, lateral force, more. Network, loaded runout, miscellaneous test functions. Which one is this? I can do even more stupid stuff here. Loaded runout component, stop filling our bag more. Out. You can get lost. You can get lost in here by about a week. You can just really camp out in there and do all sorts of crazy stuff. Okay. And so it's a really technical balancer. All right. We just try to make it look simple. All right. If you notice, it has holes in the rim. It has holes in the rim. All right. We picked up the individual holes in the rim. Right. That's pretty good. It's got 5 lug nuts. Somehow it knew it had 5 lug holes. I don't know how it knew it had 5 lug holes. Right? It had 5 lug holes.
And they're like covered on this side.
I know, right?
They're covered on both sides.
Yeah.
Well, I know they call it.
So anyway, what time you got? Okay, because I felt it.
11:35.
Jim,
Yeah, I would
Jim,
think. Yeah.
remind us again, what's the price difference between that one with all the features versus like the next step down?
So a smart weight elite is around. I'm gonna say a smart weight elite's like 8 to 10 grand, and a new RFW is like 18. So, but you're only getting half the capabilities, so you're
Right.
paying half the price if you want the full diagnostic suite. You know.
So that to that is only.
No. Yeah. So
Oh my.
that's probably 8 to 10. Someone go into price lookup and type in SWE. Yeah. So what do you get for dealer on an SWE 00
18 or
84? I said 8 to 10. That's, yeah. Right, and then if you type in RFE 00 or an RFW 00, type in an RFW 00 because that's the one we're currently.
15 distributor. 15.
Yeah. So
22.
So yeah, you're going from 8 to 15. That's, yeah. But again, these are things that your salesperson, business consultant is going to do to get the sale, right? And then again, it's all pain points, right? Can you deal with this? Can you deal with this? Can you deal without this? Can you deal without that? Do you want, it's like, why do you want puppies to die? Right?
Do they normally sell anywhere near list, or are they just putting?
No. So we put out a super high number, and then we let the people think they're getting a discount.
Not pricing, right?
So yeah. So if you take distributor, most distributors are going to go either 10 or 15 points, which is basically a fancy word to say percent. From distributor to dealer, that's 30%, and no one gets 30%. A lot of times, so for some reason, some distributors stick around 8 to 10%. They only do like 8 to 10%. The dirty little, yeah, come on in. How you doing, sir? Hey, very well.
I just want to say, how you doing?
Oh, we're great. Come on in.
I just want to say hi. Are you good? Yeah. Good.
Well, he's faking it today. He's above average today. So.
I saw him laughing.
Yeah.
He's above average. All right, see you, man.
All right. So the dirty little secret is, and Neil will learn this one. Most Most distributors sell it for like 8 to 10 points over. What happens is you know how when you guys pay a bill, you guys get 25 days to get 10% off. Um, Distributors get, is it 10 days to get an extra 5%? Pretty sure, well, U.S. distributors get 10 days. If they pay off that balancer in 10 days, they get an extra 5% discount on the price. So if you have a dealer, if you have a distributor that's got really deep pockets and he can float, a couple $100,000, right? Because you get a dealership that buys, 8 different pieces of equipment. He's up at 400,000. We're like, hey, if you pay us that 400,000 in 10 days, we'll give you 5%. So, but that's what a lot of distributors do is they pay it, all right, because then they get that extra 5% on the back end. So they upsold at 8% to the customer, but they get the 5% on the back end. Now they're getting 13%, right? Because it's all in the paperwork. Now, the trouble with that is the distributor's on the hook for like 400,000, right? Because they paid us. Now it's up to them. You got to go out and break somebody's legs to get 400,000, right? You got to do what you got to do. If they're not going to pay. So, but see, that's why we don't sell direct. We don't want to deal with chasing money, right? We don't want to chase money with you guys, which is why we give you 25 days for an extra 10% off. We would rather you pay us early and pay us on time and take your discount, because then you're literally making 10% more money on all the parts you sell. That's why we incentivize you to do that. But that's why we don't want to sell direct to the customer. And we don't want to be out, 400,000 here, 700,000 there, 50,000 here. We'd have to have a collection agency in every single state, right? And it's just a terrible business model. So that's why we sell to distributors. The distributors are in charge of collecting the money, and then we incentivize them. Hey, we'll give you an extra 5% off. So, well, and again, you can sell it for. You know what you can do? You can sell it for however much the market will bear. Right? If you can get 20 points over distributor price and you're like, now you got cash in both pockets rather than just one, good for you. I had a crazy, my distributor in where I came from, he was crazy. He would only sell things for 5 over distributor pricing. Guess how many distributors were in my area? One.
Oh, really?
I know.
I was thinking
No. He had like the whole north half of the state. Like if you were above Macon, there was one distributor. Why is he selling at 5 points? He still got his extra 5 points, so he was still making 10 points. But
Yeah, why not? You have the supply.
what are you doing at that? Why, And he sold like $13 million worth of hunter equipment one year, right? Yeah, he sold a lot of equipment. There was a time where Dave and I, the guy that you guys don't know, for a year and a half, every Tuesday and every Thursday, we put in a brand new rack. We were so tired of putting in racks. We were so tired of putting in racks. And then that just backs up your service work, right? Because you only have 3 days to work that week, right? Because you're either doing 2 for you, or you're doing 2 for him, or you're doing 1 and 1, But it was like.
So you say you used to install racks? What was it? Well, obviously, learn, but what is that difficult to install?
So.
Because it's pretty heavy.
So Dave, the guy that I'm talking about that you guys don't know, when I came out in 2004, Dave had already been in the field for like 20 years. Okay. Dave was originally part of the Four Horsemen. There was Charlie, Bob, Mike, and Dave. And those 4 did racks and aligners from basically Mount Eagle to Sevierville down to like, I don't know, Macon. They had like, back in like the 80s, you had like a third of a state because there wasn't as many customers back then. So Dave was part of the Four Horsemen. And then unfortunately, one of those guys stopped pulling his weight. Like it would take him a little bit longer to put the aligner together, and it would take him a little bit longer. And then the other 3 guys got done with the rack, and this guy was still putting the aligner together. So then they had to help him finish the aligner. So by the time I got out into the field, Dave was feeling pretty used. So then Dave only wanted to have the two of us do installs, right? Which is good because you're only having to go work for someone else one time for free, right? So it was 50-50 shot, right? I was either working for him or he was working for me. When he was working for me, he worked for lunch, right? And then when I worked for him, I was working for lunch, because you don't pay each other on new installs because you're trading the same money back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it was a lot harder on us because we only had two people, right? If we had a fully dressed, if we had a fully empty rack, bare bones rack, we could do that rack in 3 hours, a scissor rack. If it was a fully loaded rack, we could do a fully loaded rack, a scissor rack in 6 hours. If it, if we were the ones that were terrible were 4-posts. A 4-post took us like every bit from 7 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon. It was a 10-hour day to do a 4-post. I would rather do 3 scissor racks to 1 4-post. But that was the way Dave didn't want to get burned again. So it was just Dave and I, right? So my brother has 4 other people that he does installs with. So they have 5 people at an install. They do an aligner and a rack. The aligner's calibrated and the rack grout is set, and they're going home at 2 o'clock. But he has to go to 4 other people's installs for free. So he'll be driving 2.5 hours this way or 3 hours that way. Right now, those people have to drive into when my brother has to put something together. But one time they had 2 racks close enough to each other. They did 2 racks in a day because one rack was like 15 minutes away from the other one. And they had 5 people. So they just came in and they just put 2 racks in the same day.
How do you get like, how do you lift stuff?
Pallet jack. So domestically we have a little easier because the stuff comes on an 18-wheeler that has a built-in gantry crane. So then it's up to the truck driver to set the stuff on the ground. It's also up to the truck driver to get it ish to the building, right? If the building is open, it's the truck driver's responsibility to put it in the building. Now, obviously, if you're on a new construction site, he's just going to put it in a shipping container. Then it's going to sit there for 3 months or 6 months until the floor and the building's ready. And then the GC is responsible for putting it in there. But once it's on the ground, we just use pallet jacks. We never used, everyone always wants to say they're going to use a forklift. There's no room, right? Because usually the alignment rack is either the first one or the last one. There's always a wall. So you can't get on this side anyway, right? So we had a 4,500 pound pallet jack. We had 2 floor jacks, and just with a pallet jack.
I was talking to.
So are you ready? So here we go. Let me see if I can do it with this. Let me see if I can do it with this. All right. So obviously, stay there. Obviously, I can't separate the runways, so we're only doing one runway at a time. Okay. You put the pallet jack in the middle. Okay. The Dave, by the way, world-class pallet jack driver. He could put something wherever he wanted it. Dave would grab it in the middle. Dave, so this is the pit. So this is sunken. Dave would bring this guy right over. The pallet jack was sideways. Dave would put that pallet jack right at the end of the pit. I would come in on the front end of it with a 2.5 ton floor jack. So the wood is still underneath here. I would pick the front of it up enough that he could slide the pallet jack out. Okay. Then I would lower the front down. He would come in with the pallet jack this way under the back of the rack, pick up the back of the rack. I have the front of the rack on the jack. I am pulling like an idiot. He is pushing like an idiot. We get to the pallet jack. So you can't put the pallet jack way up front. So the edge of the runway is on that side of the rollers. So the pallet jack gets a little tippy on the back, right? So then you roll the pallet jack right up to the wheels or right up to the edge. Because if you have the pallet jack just right and it's on this side of the wheels, the runway is sticking about that far into the pit. So then I'm in the front. I drop the front, right? Because now the front's touching the ground. Then I take my jack. I come into the back under where the wood is. I jack up under the wood. He takes the pallet jack out of the way. I drop the jack down. It falls into the pit. Now I'm stuck under the wood though, so now I have to have a second jack to pick the rack up so I can get my jack out underneath the wood. And that's how we would do pit installs.
Videos, but then they would bring a whole, they call it a boom zoom.
Yeah, you guys will call them. We call them lulls, or transloaders. Yeah. Right. Because they telescope, right? They act like a forklift, but they also telescope in and out. They're French, Canadian. They do things differently up there, right? My brother doesn't use a forklift. They just pallet jack everything around. There's just not enough room. And sometimes when you go in to do the pit, sometimes there's a 2-post on either side, right? And you can't really get to where you're going because the 2-post is there, right? Some dude has a Corvette up there is doing an engine job on one side of you. Yes. You just man it in the pit. The worst thing I ever had to do, where the scissor part is, the pin on the scissor part, they put in at an angle, and the scissor part was wearing on each other, and it was wearing the paint off. And we had to pull up one runway out of a pit for free, so we could put the other runway back in the pit. So we didn't want to disturb the concrete, right? We didn't want to disturb the grout because it was level. And we're like, hey, if we can get this thing up high enough and get it out when we put the new one in, we put it right back down on the grout pads and bolt it back down, and we don't have to level it. That was a job. That took most of the day. It sucked, and I didn't ever want to do it again. Thankfully, I only had to do one. Getting it in is easy because gravity's working towards you, right? Getting it out is terrible. So, but that's just the way we worked. If it was a surface mounted rack, we just drove it into place, dropped it down. You take you put the jack in the front, you knock the wood out, you drop it down on the ground, you get your leveling bolts. Just get your leveling bolts, get your 3/8 minimum grout surface, and level it up.
Did anybody use like a crane truck or anything like that? Those trucks with crane?
Oh yeah. No, not here. I don't know. We're stupid. We work too hard. Right? No. So, but the good news is you it's your company. You have your own distributorship. If you happen to own that truck, or you can lease that truck, right? Then you if it makes it easier on you. RX runways are around 1,500 to 1,800 pounds a piece, so they're not terribly heavy. It's the 4-post heavy HDs. One runway weighs 3,800 pounds. The other runway weighs 4,300 pounds. Because all of the cables and the pistons are on the driver runway. So the driver runway weighs 500 pounds more than the passenger. And they're 300 inches long, right? So it's just.
Really... So did anybody ever run service trucks with crane bodies to put in HD stuff, or you just suffered?
Normally with an HD, either the customer is going to run a forklift, or you run a forklift, or you just tough it out and you bring 2 pallet jacks that day, and you put 2 pallet jacks under one, and you just move it into place. 4-posts are built a little different. You don't have to get under a 4-post. Right. You don't have to get under a heavy duty 4-post to install it. You can do a heavy duty 4-post from around side of it.
No, I just thought something like if 2 people have LLCs, you could pay somebody else's expense.
Oh yeah, you could expense it. Yeah. So, you have to be careful because sometimes nowadays they're shipping runways stacked on top of each other, and if they do that, then you're screwed because you got to have a forklift or something like that. It seems like national accounts get them shipped by a different carrier, and they're double stacked. So you're gonna have to get something to pick it up, move it off. We were in Carrollton, Georgia. It was a good year, and there was a forklift place just sort of diagonally across from the intersection. I walked over to the forklift place, rented the forklift, drove the forklift over to the Goodyear, took it, picked it up, moved it down, dropped it off, drove the forklift back across the street. It was like a 1-hour thing. And do you know the salesman, he let me pay for the forklift, and I had to buy him a sundae at Dairy Queen that day? That was not a good time. I was so mad at that sales guy. He even ordered a Blizzard. Dude, you didn't pay for the forklift.
What size?
So, he doesn't even work for the company anymore. Anyway, Yeah. So that's just which is why I'm teaching now, because nothing in here works anymore, right? So, yeah, good times. You wonder why I take the leaves. Um, it was good while it lasted. Use the if you're going to take a 4-post out, so there's 2 ways to take a 4-post out, and I'll talk about this during rack week. But you either get to know a, a a record driver that has a rollback, and you become really good friends with him, and then he just puts the winch on the back beam, and he just winches it up onto the rollback. Or usually someone has a tandem axle trailer, and they'll put 8x8s on the trailer, because usually it has sides. So they'll build up the trailer with 8x8s, so then they can just drive the trailer underneath the 4-post. They lower the 4-post down onto the 8x8s, and then they deliver it themselves. We had a wonderful rollback record driver. He picked up a scissor lift. He could put that scissor lift within about 1.5 inches of where we wanted it to go when we got to where we were going. Because he'd pick it up from the back end, so he would just back in, drop it down, drop it into place. We'd leave the jacks on. We would take the console. We'd just ratchet strap the console to the driver's side runway. He'd drop that thing down. We'd level it up. He could only go like 40 miles an hour. He had an old record. But yeah, he had a rollback. He was amazing.
So Japanese, they make a truck with a rollback.
Hmm.
Not creating it.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's called a unique.
I'm sure it is unique.
UNIC.
Yeah. Okay.
I know you see.
Yeah. So it's not a normal number boom crate. It's a kind of separate
Okay.
boom crate,
Interesting.
but the truck could double as a record truck.
Can you buy them here? I don't think you can buy them here. They're probably not. If it's something cool, they don't let us buy it, right? Like Nissan, right-hand drive Nissan. Right? You can't buy those, right? You know. Jerks. Yeah, some 25.